I just got done cashing in my check. It wasn't much, but it's better than nothing. It's starting to rain now, but you can still see the blue skies over there and some clouds all around. There's a cool lady that works at the SunTrust inside this Harris Teeter over here. I think she's half Japanese. But every time I go in there, she's real friendly. And I told her I really like Japanese stuff. And I told her I have this Japanese motorcycle. What I want to talk about is my search for a good motorcycle insurance company that gives the best price for the policy that I was looking for. And I talked about this yesterday, but I guess I didn't press the record button long enough or hard enough. And when I checked to see on the video if it recorded my conversation or with me talking, it didn't show up, so I'm just going to talk about it again. Before I decided to ride my motorcycle again, of course I had to look for motorcycle insurance companies. And I decided to go online and try to get a quote from popular or famous insurance companies like Geico, Progressive, State Farm, Allstate, Nationwide. And I went to their websites and I filled out the forms to get a quote. All you do is try to answer the questions that they ask, and I guess the automated machine will calculate it and give you a quote. And you can present that quote to the sales associate for that representative of that company. And after looking through for the best insurance policy I could get, I didn't like the high prices that I received from the automated machines. So I decided to talk to a person, a sales representative of those companies like Geico, Progressive, and all the others. And I was happier to hear that the prices went down after talking to a person instead of using the quote from a machine. And one of the lowest prices I was quoted on over the phone was for Geico. And so after that, I decided to go to the Geico office so I could go ahead and make the first payment for that policy that I got a quote for. And so I go into the office expecting to see the person that I talked to over the phone. And her name was Jenny or Jen or Jean, something like that. And when I went in there, she wasn't working. And so I ended up talking to another sales representative who happened to be her husband. And so we go into the computer. I gave her my phone number, or I gave him rather my phone number, so he could look up the quote that I was given on the phone. And so after several minutes looking through the computer, he couldn't find the quote. And so he decided to recalculate the policy that matched what I was talked about over the phone. So after some calculations, it ended up that the price was double what I was quoted on the phone. So I wasn't really happy about that. And I told him that I would think about it and come back if I decided to get that policy from Geico. And so I decided to shop around some more. And I went to Allstate and talked to the person there also, some Mexican lady. And the price was like 4 times more what I was looking for. And they had deductibles just like in Geico. And the last and final place I went to was State Farm. The Debbie Leonard State Farm office in Hillsborough Street. Debbie Leonard used to be the women's basketball coach for Duke Blue Devils. And I talked to someone in her office over the phone. And the quote I was given was the second best out of all the places I've shopped around on. So I go into that office expecting to pay a real high policy price because of the deductibles. But I found out with the lady that I was talking to, she told me that State Farm for motorcycles such as my Yamaha R1 year 2000, they didn't have any deductibles for collision or comprehensive, which was a surprise to me because all the other places that I went to had some kind of deductible. And what that means is that if my motorcycle ever gets stolen, I would have to either pay the deductible amount to the insurance company before they give me the value of my motorcycle, or they could deduct the deductible from the value of the motorcycle. I think it's the Blue Book Kelly Blue Book value, but I'm not sure which source they use to come up with the value of a motorcycle. But you know, that made my day when I found out that I didn't have to pay any deductibles and it wasn't part of the policy. And so I decided to get liability and comprehensive, which covers theft, fire, natural damages, or even if you hit a deer in the road, they will pay for it. So, you know, I was really happy about that. And I actually had to make the first, no, not the first, but the second payment sometime this week. I received a letter in the mail with the bill, but instead of mailing a check, I think I'm going to try and pay for it at the office itself, which isn't too far from where I live, which is the Debbie Leonard's office is on Hillsborough Road. And so insurance companies are really important in terms of, you know, protecting you from getting your motorcycle stolen or getting injured or getting into an accident. So I suggest going to State Farm and get a quote from them, because out of all the insurance companies that I went to, they were the only ones that didn't have any deductibles. And like I said again, the office that I went to was on Hillsborough Road, and it's called Debbie Leonard State Farm. And from the past, I actually had 2 sport bikes stolen from me. So at the time I was real naive and thought that only getting liability would be enough, and I didn't think anybody would steal my sport bikes. And that was real dumb of me. You know, I learned the hard way. So now, whenever I, you know, have a sport bike or any type of motorcycle, I try to get at least comprehensive. And of course, you have to have liability with that. The 2 sport bikes that was stolen from me, one was in San Diego, California. I had a 2003 Yamaha R1. And there was another sport bike stolen, a Honda CBR F4, year 1999 or 2000, I don't recall. But that was stolen in Greensboro, North Carolina. So my suggestion is to get comprehensive at least. That way you're covered for theft. And I recommend going to State Farm if you have that available. And this is USS Princeton 2004. I hope this video is recorded, and I'm signing off.